What the hell is Saw Sports or whatever that last call was talking about? What the hell is that?
They're from Free Love, man.
What's the motherfucking deal, man? Welcome to Saw Sports. I am your host, Honcho. If you're not familiar with Saw Sports is a Houston, Texas homer network. Means we're talking all sports, but only Houston. If you want that other sports talk, you need to make sure you're on Saw Sports TV. This is primarily the Texas channel, but let's get into it. Today we're going to talk about the top 5 most important games that the Texans will have in the 2019 season. Make sure you go to all the proper social medias listed down below and follow Saw Sports on all of those platforms to stay up to date with all most pertinent Houston sports information. Let's go in order 1 through 5. Make sure you stay tuned because there will be a bonus at the very end, a bonus choice. We're going to go 1 through 5 in order from least important to most important of the top 5 most important games. Let's not waste time and let's get into it right now. All right, so the first of the top 5 most important games facing the Houston Texans this season, I think, will be Week 7 in Indianapolis versus Jacoby Brissett and the Colts. The reason why I say this game is very important is because the Houston Texans under Bill O'Brien have never beaten Jacoby Brissett from the Patriots to the Colts. And you want to see where the team is at that time. It's almost midway through the season. They should be clicking. They should be good to go by then. I do personally feel that Frank Reich is a better head coach than Bill O'Brien. So you kind of have the Brissett angle. You have the playing in Indy angle. Even though they won there last year, I think there's a few factors that played into that were sketchy. Very questionable at best. But the Texans came away with the win, so you can't take that away from them. That started the 9-game win streak. But these are a few factors that Bill O'Brien has had struggled with because he goes on to lose the next 2 games versus the Colts, even though those were at home. The Texans have historically struggled in Indy. I think, like I said, Frank Reich, 2 out of 3 games, outplayed, outcoached Bill O'Brien, and even in the first one, it was very close with the comeback. I believe it was like 18 points. Jacoby Brissett never beat him. So I think these are a few factors that are going to play into, is Bill O'Brien a better head coach at this point? Are the Texans just too powerful? What's going to happen in this game? I think it's going to be essential for the Texans to win this if they're going to be in contention for anything at this point in time in the season. But let's go ahead and get to the second of the top 5 most important games for the Houston Texans in the 2019 season. Let's get to number 2 right now. The second most important game of the 2019 season for the Houston Texans is actually the first game of the season, and that is going to New Orleans, a notoriously loud stadium. They have a huge home field advantage. The Texans went 11-5 last year. The Saints were a bad call away from possibly winning a Super Bowl. Well, going to a Super Bowl, we won't go that far. But the Saints are considered by many the NFC team to beat, the team that's going to come out and most likely contend for a Super Bowl. All preseason picks, all, the experts are choosing the Saints. And so I think this is a good benchmark to start the season to see where the Houston Texans are at. Are they prepared with the new pieces that they brought in? Will they be ready to go after only having about a week or so to get prepared under Bill O'Brien? What will we see different? I mean, is this team a new look team? There's a lot of pieces that have been removed. There's new pieces that have been added. Is B.O.B. still the same coach? Will Tim Kelly really get a chance to call plays? Even though Bill O'Brien has said it will be a tandem deal, I'm not a big fan of that. That's Bill O'Brien's play calling has been questionable at best, and we saw Tim Kelly in the preseason, and it looked a little bit more exciting when he was calling plays. I would like to know if that translates over into the regular season with him having control of the starters. So going against Drew Brees, going against Sean Payton, a coach, again, another coach that I think is better than Bill O'Brien and has shown that historically throughout his tenure. A team that has had a bowl under their belt, a team that is back in contention for that consideration. And again, you're talking about an all-time great in Drew Brees going against this defense. You'll be able to see what is this defense working with. Are the new additions, Roby, is he the man? Is Gibson the guy? You'll see what some of these new pieces are working with in the secondary. So I think that the first game is the second most important game of the season to get an idea of where the Texans are at starting the season. Are they already clicking on all cylinders? You don't want them to peak too early, but it'll be very interesting. But let's go ahead and get into number 3, the third most important game for the Houston Texans in the 2019 season. All right, so let's get into the third most important game of the 2019 season. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you want the freshest flavor in H-Town sports content. Again, make sure you go to saucesports.tv to go to the second Sauce channel so you don't miss any of that Astros, Rockets, Dynamo Dash, and the rest of the city getting covered. But the third most important game, the third and fourth games were almost interchangeable. It's like 3A and 3B. But I went with this game because I think it has a little bit more weight. It's the start of something versus a job that needs to be finished. And that is versus the Kansas City Chiefs in week 6. So this will be the first time you'll really see in a real game Deshaun Watson get to go against Patrick Mahomes. Both these guys were picked out of the same draft. We saw what Trubisky did the other day, so we don't want to put him in the conversation. Thank God that he went first, right? You see both these guys in the same draft finally get a good chance to compete. Kansas City is high-powered, and it's not just about Deshaun and Mahomes, because, again, another high-powered offense. We talked about the Saints, but you're talking about Kansas City was one of the most prolific offenses last year, and going against this secondary, it's going to be a challenge for this secondary. But can Watson, with all the weapons that he has, emulate what's going on? You know, Watson's a guy whose name has been thrown around the MVP conversation. We already know about Pat Mahomes and the MVP. People are putting him in the conversation again this year. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the Texans can dial up, again, against another coach who I feel is a better coach. There's 3 coaches. This is why I have a lot of questions about Billy O. But we know Andy Reid is, again, a historically solid coach, has been on the brink of a Super Bowl championship, but not quite, you know, where he wants to be, I'm sure. But it's going to be another test against a quality coach, a quality team, a high-powered offense. Will the Texans either be able to stop that offense, or will they be able to keep up, and will this be a shootout? And I think this is the future of the NFL in this game right here, between Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. These are 2 guys that got compared a lot. You know, we can talk about whose skill sets are stronger where. We talk mobility versus, you know, passing accuracy and things of that nature. But I think that this is the 3rd most important game. And this is the future of the NFL. These are going to be 2 guys who are going to be battling out, not only in the regular season, but I feel like in the future, in a lot of late playoff games when it really counts, when it really matters about who's going to go to the big game. You know, I expect to see these guys in some AFC championships, things like this in the near future. But to me, this is the 3rd most important game. Let's get into the 4th game, and I think this is one I think a lot of people will agree on, especially if you're a Texas fan and you've been a Texas fan for quite some time. Let's go get into the 4th most important game of the 2019 season for the Houston Texans. All right, so getting into the 4th most important game in 2019 for the Houston Texans, and I told you 3 and 4 were like 3A and 3B because I thought they were very close games. One I think is the future, one I think is currently a problem that has happened for the Texans, and that is the new NFL versus the old NFL. And what I mean by that is Deshaun Watson versus Tom Brady. We've seen Deshaun Watson come close a couple of times in his few years under quarterback. We've seen the Texans come close even with 17, but for some reason Bill O'Brien cannot get over that Patriots hump. He cannot conquer Bill Belichick, and we all know that Bill O'Brien is a student of Bill Belichick, that Belichick coaching tree. You can put Cornell in there. It's a lot of guys that have not really gone on to find a lot of success other places. But we will find out this year, is Bill O'Brien capable of beating Bill Belichick? This year, will the future of the NFL and Deshaun Watson be able to beat one of the legends of the NFL in Tom Brady? Will J.J. Watt get a full sack on Tom Brady? I think there's a lot of questions to see, and this is going to be week 13 at this point. I think both teams will be in contention for something, possibly winning both of their divisions, possibly playing for seeding. So this game will be very relevant. And so I think it's going to matter, and we'll see what really ultimately happens. Again, I think Belichick is another one of those coaches that is better than Bill O'Brien, and I want to see if Bill O'Brien takes a step this year. The reason why I keep reiterating that is I want to see if Bill O'Brien takes a step this year, year 6, if not now, when, to put himself in one of those upper echelons or one of those upper tiers of coaches. I don't think he's going to be one of the best in the NFL, but he can be I think he's an average coach, so he could be a good coach. And we'll see what happens. Will Bill still be calling plays? Will Tim Kelly take over? But again, it's going to be a very important game for the Texans, and hopefully the Texans finally get over the hump. But let's go ahead and get into the 5th and final. Well, not necessarily the final. Make sure you stay tuned because there is a bonus game that I think is going to be very intriguing for the Houston Texans this year. But let's go ahead and get to the 5th, and I think you're going to be surprised by this game and why I picked this game. Go ahead and stay tuned. Finally made it to the 5th and most important game this season for the Houston Texans will be Week 17 versus the Tennessee Titans. Now, normally you would say the Texans have handled the Titans, but we saw a big goof last year early in the season versus the Titans with Gabbert, and that's something that should have never happened. So, but then we saw later in the season the Texans basically handled the Titans easily. It was no real comparison. It was never really a threat of the Titans ever winning that game. But I think that this game could come down to big implications as far as wild card AFC South, who comes away with the AFC South championship. And again, seeding, like I mentioned in the previous number 4 versus the Patriots, this could be a seeding issue. The bye week is always good to have. So I think that the fifth and final most important game is going to be versus the Titans. Divisional implications. I think playoff implications, not just, you know, as far as seeding, but getting in or out. Wild card versus, you know, division champ. And then again, like I said, then seeding is an issue too. So I think this is going to be very important. And then we're in Houston. We hate the Titans. Fuck the Titans. You know what I mean? So I think that's going to be very important too. So I think there's a multi-layered reasons why this game will be very important for the Houston Texans this year. And I actually enjoy the fact that they put both of the games towards the end of the season. It's like a Titan sandwich with the Bucs, one game in the middle. So I think week 15 is Titans, 16 is the Bucs, and then 17 is Titans. So both of those games are going to be very important. So depending on what happens in week 15 can make week 17 that much more important. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that all plays out. But those are the top 5 most important games of 2019. But I told you stay tuned because I have a bonus video for you. Let's get to that bonus video right now, man. And I want to know what you think, man. Hit that comment section below. Do you agree? Name your top 5 games of 2019. I'm sorry, 2019. If you think there's a more important game, if you think I got the list out of order, if you don't think that these are important games, I'd love to know what you feel. I'd love to know what you think. Hit that comment section below, and I'm going to start taking the best comments and start sharing them in a weekly video, maybe on Saturdays, or maybe it might start next week. But you know, make sure you comment, because like I said, I'm going to start showcasing some of the great comments that we get here at Salt Sports, and I really appreciate you guys. Let's get into that bonus video, or that bonus pick right now. Right before we get to that bonus though, make sure again, you hit that subscribe button, you hit that like button if you like the video. Make sure you're sharing this with other Texans fans, NFL fans, whatever they may be. But most importantly, make sure you're following Salt Sports on Salt Sports at Facebook, Salt Sports HTX on Twitter, Salt Sports HTX on Instagram. Make sure you can stay up to date with all the news, because YouTube doesn't always put the information out there. So if you want to stay up to date with all the sauce, if you want the fresh flavor, especially in Texans content, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're new to this. And make sure you go to Salt Sports TV and hit the subscribe button there if you want the other professional team. We're going to start giving you some college content. I'm going to give you a lot more content, so make sure you're paying attention to Salt Sports TV. I've dropped a couple of Dynamo and Astro videos. Shout out to Hector. Definitely appreciate that. But let's go ahead and get to this bonus video, man. Again, I appreciate y'all. I'm Ed Honcho, and I'll catch y'all next time. Check out the bonus. So I had to throw a little bonus in here, sprinkle a little extra sauce in here for you, man. But to me, the bonus video, the bonus choice, well, not video, but the bonus pick for most important games in 2019 will be versus the Ravens in week 11. A Heisman rivalry revisited between Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson. Well, can they prove it in the pros versus one another? We know Lamar in 2016 won the Heisman over Watson, mainly because of the rushing yards. A lot of other things were similar. I think a lot of people felt Deshaun should have won it, but because of the historic amount of numbers that Lamar Jackson put up rushing that year, and what he did overall for his team to have them in consideration, he ended up taking the Heisman over Watson, though Watson claiming he felt like he was the best player in the country, and I'm not going to dispute that, especially glad that he's a Texan. It'll be a chance for these guys to go head-to-head again in the pros, and who will come out on top? My guess is as good as yours. I'd love to know what you think on that one. Again, hit that comment section below. Let me know what you think on who wins between the Ravens versus the Texans in week 11. And who would you have picked for Heisman? Deshaun Watson or Lamar Jackson? Very interesting question. Yeah.
Perfect.